What's up, guys? Sheer Drop Wrestling Team back with another video here with Andy. Today we are going to be reviewing the episode of Raw from yesterday, September 4th. It was the Labor Day episode of Raw. Andy, how are we doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Enjoyed the long weekend.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. I wasn't gonna get it at first, but thankfully one of my other managers was like, I'm actually off at my other job that day. If you want to have the day off, like, feel free. And I was like, yes.
Nice.
Otherwise,
Nice.
I would have had to work yesterday. All right. But Raw tonight comes from Charlotte, North Carolina. The main event of the evening, the talking point throughout the whole episode, was Gunther and Chad Gable. Their match. If Gunther wins, then he becomes the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history. And spoiler alert, he is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess since that's the main takeaway from this episode, how are we feeling about that? I know that a couple weeks ago, when we were talking about, oh, it's definitely got to be Chad, it's definitely got to be Chad, and we had our dates wrong. We thought for sure like Payback was it, and then like Gunther would be fine. Well, we were wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so now with everything that's gone on, do you think this was the right call?
Um, I don't know if I'd say it was the right call. I think it was definitely a good call, because it does really cement Gunther in history for the WWE. Uh, but I do also really think that they had done such a good job building Gable up to this point that it was, a really good jumping off point that they could have gone with him getting the title.
I I wouldn't have been upset if he had won for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but I think with just as close as Gunther got, I think if he would have taken away at the end, I think people would have been more upset about that than not having Chad
True.
win.
Yeah.
But just the way that they closed out the night, and I definitely want to talk about this more when we get to that match as we go
Yeah.
through the card here. But I don't think they're done. I know this was their third match. It was technically the rubber match, and Gunther had a very definitive, clean win in the middle of that ring. But I don't think these two are done. I think it's going to be a little while down the card, but I think it is still going to be Gable that takes it off of him. So Raw opens up. We get Samantha introducing as we found out at Payback, newest member of the Monday Night Raw roster. Try saying that fast. We get main event Jey Uso, who's only been gone from SmackDown for like 2 or 3 weeks.
I
Uh,
think it was like 3 weeks. Yeah.
3 weeks, something like that. It didn't feel as like impactful as it could have been. If he
Mhm.
was gone for a little while longer, but it's cool to see Jay on his own. With his new music, It's Just Me, Oos. Definitely curious to see where he plays a role on the card now. They've already got him intertwined with some of the stories that are going on
Yep.
with Raw. Um, so just ultimately, I think it's a good thing. Get him away from Jimmy for a while. Get him away from the bloodline, and just really freshen him up. Since it seems like Jay is kind of the one that they wanted to like strap a rocket to,
Yeah.
out of either him or Jimmy.
Yeah. I would agree. It's a really good opportunity to kind of just let him have his own time and do his own thing for a bit and get away from the bloodline shenanigans that have been going on for,
Too long.
yeah.
Too long. But he cuts a promo about how he's on Raw now, and he knows he's made a lot of enemies back in that locker room. But if anyone has something to say to him, like he's right here. They can say it to him in this ring, and we get the first of, I noted, three Sami Zayn music cues last night. Dude was out of that curtain a ton throughout the whole night. Um, but Sammy comes out. Now, obviously, there's the history between not only Sammy and Jay, but Sammy and the whole bloodline and that whole ordeal that went on. It feels like forever ago. It was just a couple months ago.
Mhm.
It all wrapped up at just WrestleMania. It hasn't been too long.
No, it is not.
Um, but Sammy comes out. He tells Jay, "Look, I wanted to be the first one out here to tell you that I'm happy you're here." Sammy's kind of letting bygones be bygones. He tells Jay that he's proud of him for stepping out of Roman's shadow, for getting away from the bloodline, and all that. Kind of Jay for turning into his own person finally. And he's super happy for Jay. Can't wait to see what happens. But he goes for a handshake to like welcome Jay. Jay kind of like mean mugs him at first. Sammy walks away and like sad Sammy face. He he goes, "Hey Sammy, that wasn't very oozy of me." They hug it out. Just oozy popped me again. It's one of
Yeah.
those things that I know you, me, and Daniel. It's all slipped into just our common vernacular amongst each
Yep.
other now. I'm sure it's the same way for everyone that's heard that. It's just been a while since we've heard it, especially from Jay. That it definitely got a pop from me on that sofa.
Same here, man.
But a thing that I found interesting, and to kind of seg us into the next thing that happened on the card, we get that tag match, or we get Riddle and McIntyre coming out for the tag match. There's a few more things that go on before that happens, so I mean, it's a live event. They're probably in the ring for like ever before that match starts, because like that Nakamura video package happened before that match, which meant we're just out in the ring for like ever.
For what match?
For the McIntyre and Riddle and the tag
Oh
match.
no, that was cut
That was cut.
from the it was cut from the Hulu package, yeah.
They advertised it on the Hulu episode
Yeah,
last
no,
week.
it just wasn't in there.
Damn. Okay. Uh.
I mean, by all means, like we can talk about it. I just
Okay. Well, the first of many things tonight, I'm sure. This is an interesting scenario for us where I was able to catch it live, and Andy saw it on Hulu. So this will be an interesting dichotomy to see who saw what.
definitely.
uh, so at the end of, did you at least see like Riddle and McIntyre come out and like mean mug Jay, or did they cut all of that?
Oh, they cut all of that. I didn't even
Okay,
know they did that.
so uh, so after Jay and Sammy hug it out, they're going back
Mm.
up the ramp and stuff. McIntyre's music hits, and he like as he's coming out, he's just staring a hole through Jay, because again, bloodline stuff is the reason Drew McIntyre didn't beat Roman.
Yeah.
Um, and Sammy's trying to like create some space between the two. He's like, hey, like let's not do this. Now's not the time. It's his first night. Let's just give him time. Let him show you that he's changed. And Riddle comes out afterwards, and it's the exact same thing. Just staring a hole through Jay, because there's also history between Roman, Riddle, and the Bloodline. And Sammy once again has to step in and is like, "Hey, let's not do this right now." Um, so that happens, and then did they cut the Nakamura video package?
No, the Nakamura video package
So
is
they
still
kept
in there,
that,
if
but
I
not
remember
the.
correctly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, do you want to talk about the video package then, since I'll be talking a little bit about the match?
Uh I don't have many notes on the video package. I just mostly have notes of what came afterwards, because after that they had cut to what I'm only assuming was the next thing on the card that we both got to see, which
Okay.
was the Shinsuke coming out as my brain is braining, not really. Shinsuke coming out as Seth was in the ring.
Gotcha. So yeah, that did come after the tag match. So it was like that stuff, video package, whole match that just cut from existence, and then Rollins. Oh, this is fun. So it was. I mean, it was a fun match for what it was. It was the tornado
Mhm,
tag match between McIntyre and Riddle and the Viking Raiders.
mhm.
I don't have a whole lot going on. I was trying just to watch Raw and enjoy it, and then more kind of take more notes as like the finish of the matches happen.
Yeah.
Um, they did that spot again where the Raiders are on the outside and Drew just overhead throws Riddle onto them. That was pretty cool. But Riddle gets back into the ring. There was also another fun spot where immediately after that happens, he gets in the ring, like shoves Drew on the chest and goes for like the uh the Dudley Boys. Like he tells Drew to get the tables, and the crowd pops for that. The crowd wants tables. Drew shoves him back and yells at him, "You go get the tables." And Riddle's like, "Okay, I guess I'll do
Okay,
it."
I guess.
But either way, we get tables. Crowd pops.
Mhm.
Everyone loves a good table. Um, so there's a spot in the match where uh, Riddle is just about ready to get put through that table. The one that he grabs in true
Mhm.
WWE fashion. But Kofi comes out to try and intervene. Kofi ends up hitting Riddle with the Trouble in Paradise, the Trouble in Paradise, accidentally. While he's recomposing himself, the Raiders pick Kofi up and throw him at Drew. They just use Kofi as a weapon. Um, and then they hit Ragnarok on Riddle through the table and then pin
Mhm.
him. So now you kind of have the inverse of last week, where Drew inadvertently got the New Day to lose their match. Now you have
Yeah.
Kofi inadvertently getting Drew and Riddle to lose. And I assume if they cut this match, they probably cut the backstage segment afterwards, later on in the night. But if
Probably.
you could believe that Drew McIntyre is not happy about this.
I, with someone interfering in the match and costing him the win? Never.
I know, hard to believe. Very mellow mannered Drew McIntyre. But no, it's cool. The Raiders get back to back wins
Mhm.
in 2 weeks, which is more than they've done in a while, it feels.
Yeah,
So, I
it's
mean,
good
good for
on
them,
them.
you know?
Yeah.
So now we've got that Rollins Nakamura thing. So I guess now we can talk about the video package and then the whole like segment as a whole,
Mhm.
since that's kind of how it was portrayed to you. So the video package was just kind of Nakamura letting Seth know that he's not done with him yet. He doesn't want to be done with him, rather. And basically, the only thing that's on his mind is getting, that World Heavyweight Championship and breaking Seth. It's the stuff that we've heard for the last couple of weeks before their match at Payback, and now it's just kind of
Mhm.
doubling down on it. But what was interesting um, is after the video package, did it show like Ricochet and Seth and Pierce all like
Yeah, the
backstage?
backstage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it showed that little segment there.
So Ricochet is talking to Pierce about how, he got cheated out of like this. It just hasn't been Ricochet's night for many, many nights. And Pierce notices that Seth is there, um, which he's not supposed to be. So in kayfabe, like medically, like he's not even supposed to be in the arena tonight, and
Yeah.
that plays a little into what happens. Um, Seth. We all know Seth, the fighting champion. I think he's done. They put out some sort of stat. It's like 25 defenses in a little over 100 days if you count like premium live events, regular episodes of like Raw, and like house shows. and stuff like that. So like
Yeah,
25 defenses is so it's a lot.
it's just about every other day if it's only been
Yeah,
about
about
100
once every four
days.
or 5 days, he's putting that title on the
Yeah.
line.
Or yeah, that's the correct math.
But uh, but he says, if he can walk, he can fight. And well, later on we find out that he intends to mean that. But here's where the show kind of starts falling apart for me.
Mhm.
So Rollins comes back out. Well, he comes out for the first time, I guess, to the ring, and he starts cutting a promo about his match, and it's the standard, you know, I'm battered, I'm beaten, I'm bruised, but last time I checked, I'm still champion. So you didn't beat me that bad. Uh, but Nakamura comes out, and then Seth is like, "Well, I know what you're here for, right? You want a rematch, You can have it." Nakamura says no.
Yeah, he just gives him the big old no.
And then Rollins is like, I'm sorry, maybe maybe I misheard you. Like, what is it? And he's like, no. And so I tweeted out,
Hmm.
like what possibly could Nakamura, like what possibly could his motives be for not wanting a rematch for the belt that he didn't win. And someone reached back to me and they're like, well, that's just not how his character's being built. Like, Nakamura is a smart fighter. He wants to do this on his own terms. And at the moment, I replied and I was like, okay, like, good analysis. That makes sense. And then I sat there and I thought about it. And I'm like, no, that makes no fucking sense. Like, at all. Like, normally it's like when the bad guy has the belt
Hmm.
and the good guy's like, I want a rematch. Or the bad guy's like, okay, you get your rematch, but not tonight. We do this on my terms. Like, that's cool if, like, they were the winner.
Hmm.
Nakamura lost clean, so he shouldn't have, like, a rematch at all. And Seth is like, hey, I'll give you one right now. And he's like, no, we do this on my terms. It's like, why? Why? You're not guaranteed a rematch. Why would you not take this opportunity right now? If his character is about
Yeah,
being smart, then, like, identify that this is an opportunity that you are not supposed to have right now. Seth isn't supposed to be in this building. Uh,
no.
Capitalize on that. So I don't know. It was just something that, like, it made sense at first, and then it's one of those things that you think about it and it starts making less and less sense
You just
as
sit
to
on it and the reality of it kind of starts to settle in and you go, wait, but what other reason could he have to have an opportunity to challenge him again? Because as you said, Seth won clean.
so I know we're probably gonna get another match out of this at some point.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe at Fastlane. I don't know. But, like, Rollins would just win again, wouldn't he?
I would think.
I mean, they're not gonna trade the title at Fastlane. It's
No.
Fastlane.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just that one, it kind of took me out a little bit on that one, just
Hmm.
because I don't understand. It's not consistent booking. It doesn't
Hmm.
make a whole lot of sense. Just personally, maybe there's, like, something that's gonna happen and it'll all make sense. But as of right now,
It's just kind of a big eh,
yeah, it's like
moment of
Tim
like,
Allen noise.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if I couldn't see in the closed captions what Shinsuke had said before Seth, like I guess towards the beginning of Seth offering him the opportunity at a rematch right then and there. Because before he had just outright said no, he had come out and had a good bit to say, it seemed, but obviously, as someone who doesn't is not fluent in his native language, I
yeah.
couldn't really tell what he said. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, maybe, and or I don't know. Could have also just been him coming out doing a typical, you know, smack talking
Mm-hmm.
time just to kind of bring Seth back down. I don't know.
Yeah, we should probably just move on from this. It's starting to like
Yeah.
hurt my brain. Like just getting flashbacks of last night of just getting irrationally upset as to why this person doesn't want a rematch for the title that they just lost. Uh,
Yeah.
so we get kind of an impromptu match after that. It's one of those it was made official during the break
Yep.
type deals of Nakamura and Ricochet, since Ricochet just happened to be backstage and was the one talking to Pierce and Seth about things. Did they have this
And
for you?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
they had this. And I think another reason that they kind of did this too was that Ricochet was back there during that backstage segment and had
Hmm.
said, oh, if you ever like, if you need something, Seth, I'm here for you. Kind of like, offering his hand to help him if he needs someone to step in for him or something. But
So what? Well, calling this a match is kind of a misnomer.
yeah,
Uh, but from what we saw, what'd you think of this?
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was two great people who I've been a fan of for a long time, since you introduced me to wrestling. Uh, and so I just really enjoyed getting to see them in the ring again. Um, I think it was Insuke at one point had done a sliding German on Ricochet and slid right under the rope. That was really neat to see. Yeah, I just was enjoying seeing them both back in the ring against each other.
I thought it was like a pretty fun little
Yeah,
skirmish, a little bit of a
yeah.
brawl. Shinsuke targeting a lot of Ricochet's back to kind of send that message to Seth was cool. And then Shinsuke just gets himself disqualified. Uh,
Yeah,
Shinsuke didn't want to win this match. He just wanted to like prove a
to
point or send a
yeah,
message. And
yeah.
he just bonks Ricochet with a chair, gets himself disqualified.
I'm pretty sure he continued to just beat him up with that chair. I think it was towards the end there. He had set him up to. I'm not sure what he was going to hit on him, but he had set up Ricochet's head between the chair, like he was going to close on it. Um, Somebody stepped in, I believe, at the end of that. I think it was Seth stepped
Seth,
in.
yep, Seth
Yeah.
waddles back out from the back.
And that's when I guess Shinsuke just took the opportunity to continue to just beat away on his weak point there. His back.
But a couple times also in this match, it cuts to Priest and Rhea who are backstage watching, and Rhea's kind of giving like the no, not yet, like let's wait a little longer, which then also kind of calls into question when like what if not now, with the way that Seth is on it kind of goes back where it's like the Shinsuke argument again. On a night where Seth Rollins isn't even supposed to be in the arena because of how messed up his back is in
Hmm.
kayfabe, what better time is there than like literally right now to run out, bonk him in the back with the briefcase? You're the new champion.
Okay, so this is one thing I had in my notes because I did notice that they were cutting back to the backstage with Rhea and Priest standing there watching. This is like some crazy level theory of what could possibly be
Some
going
Giga
on,
Brain.
but might explain why Shinsuke is kind of just so like, I want the championship. I'm gonna hit your weak point a bunch. I'm gonna really tear that right out of your hands. Is Shinsuke just kind of is he being paid off by the Judgment Day essentially, or whatever? Is he just kind of essentially supposed to be a hitman, and that's what the whole peeking back to the backstage with Rhea and Priest watching supposed to hint at that he's really just doing it so that they can get somebody weak so Priest can hop in there quick. Again, I don't think that that's really what's happening, but it's definitely like some I non-0% chance is all.
Some like 8,000 IQ.
Yeah.
Like we're playing 4D chess. with the
Yeah.
booking. But then, I mean, to be fair, if Priest would have cashed in literally tonight, couldn't have gotten that new cool briefcase from JD.
Very
And
true.
then he would have sat back there with that thing looking like an idiot. He's like, what am I supposed to do with this now? So, since it cut the match, since we were talking about this a little bit before we started,
Mhm.
did you see the Zoe Stark interview at all? Okay, so
Nope.
it was a little short.
Mhm.
So it's Zoe being interviewed backstage, basically just being asked like, "Oh, is your like relationship with Trish Stratus okay? Are you guys done being friends?" And Zoe's just like, "Yeah, pretty much." Gets interrupted by Shayna,
Mhm.
who Shayna, is irritated now that Zoe is walking around like she's the toughest woman on the roster, and Shayna's like, "No, that's me." Like, okay, like I'm the one that got Ronda Rousey out of here. Okay, let's be real for a second. It's me. And that basically just sets up the match for later
Mhm.
on. Uh, Judgment Day segment, I believe, was next. Did they have?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do you want to talk about this one?
Uh, sure. I can try and take the lead. I don't remember if it had them actually, cut to them walking in to the ring or if it just cut with them in the ring. It was essentially just a big old group huddle of the Judgment Day in the ring. Uh, Finn, they all had a little bit of a time on the mic at the beginning there, and then Finn kind of just took over and was thanking each individual member of the Judgment Day for what they've done and, acquiring the accomplishments that they have acquired. Dom having the NXT championship, Rhea being a good mediator of a sort. I don't know if that's quite the word that he used, but that's essentially
That's been
the
a
role
role.
he was. Yeah, yeah. And having the women's championship, having that accomplishment, and then also, with Priest going, hey, I know we've had a rough patch for the last few months, last while, but hey, look at us. We're tag team champions now. Let's go us.
We definitely still don't hate each other.
Yeah.
You've got to
Uh,
believe us.
I know when Dom was talking, I could barely hear anything, so I'm glad I had closed captions on because the boos for that man were so loud in that arena.
They're intense.
uh, and then I think there was a little bit more back and forth between all of them, like, big pats in the back. Uh, at one point, Rhea had something to say. I don't quite remember what it was. It was essentially more about, hey, it's good that we're talking about all of these things that we've done and all, but right now we need to be talking about the Judgment Day and still trying to get everybody's head focused in on the faction as a whole and not just the individuals involved in it. And I believe after that is when Priest goes to take the mic and he goes to start talking, and JD McDonough interrupts him with an entrance. Uh, Comes walking down to the ring with Mike saying something along the lines, I took a bullet for you guys helping you out uh, the other night. So the least you can do is let me come into the ring and hear me out. That's when they have their little interaction, and JD presents Priest with the Senior Money in the Bank Money in the Bank briefcase in the Judgment Day colors, which looks so great
Yeah, I was
in
I
those
was a big fan of
colors.
the colors. The senior part looks like it's just like slapped on, and I don't know if
Yeah.
that's purposeful or not. But like that deep purple on the briefcase is a good touch. I was a
Hmm.
big fan of that.
Hmm. Um, and after they did that, and Priest presents the new briefcase to the crowd, he goes to the mic again, and once again gets interrupted, but this time by Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn immediately hops on the mic and is saying, that it wasn't a clean win. They stole the championship from them, just like all of the other members of the Judgment Day have stolen the championships that they've acquired. Uh, I believe he calls all of them turds,
He
with
does.
Dom being the largest of them. And essentially is trying to challenge Dom to a match, because blaming Dom for being the biggest problem that they had
Mhm.
encountered during the tag match Saturday night. And JD McDonough steps in and says, "No, no, 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 no. I'm going to be the one that you're fighting if you have a problem with these guys." Kind of trying to, I guess, cement his place, at least somewhat involved with the faction, if not trying to kind of like,
Weasel his way
work his,
in.
yeah, work his way into the faction in general.
I literally only have like those notes. Not a whole lot more, not a whole lot less. I did notice that in like, so this is Sammy count number two, for the
Mhm.
night.
Yeah.
I think in almost every time he comes out and cuts a promo, he says like, and I don't have Kevin Owens with me tonight. Like he's not here, but he says it like almost every time as if it's like his first time out there, or
Yeah.
like if he forgot he said it at the beginning of the night, so he's just like really reiterating that like KO's not here tonight for some reason. That was just one of the like the weird things that stuck out to me. Like, why is he saying that?
After
Why is he saying
after
that
a
so
couple
many times?
Yeah, after a couple times, I figured it was going to be like a, "Oh, just kidding, he's actually here" type moment, but
It wasn't. It was
no, he
the man
wasn't.
just wasn't there tonight. Last night.
Yeah.
That's it. um, so it seems more, and it happens a little later as well. But JD is kind of getting into the good graces of the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
So I've seen a little like 50-50 about this online, just from the small little things that I've seen.
Mhm.
So I will throw the question out to you. So JD's involvement with the Judgment Day, is it sincere or are they using him?
I feel like I feel it's a mixed perspective within the group itself. I don't feel that you can just say it's one way or the other. For the most part, probably just using him, as three-quarters of the Judgment Day don't really have any affiliation with him in the past and don't really have too much of a reason to trust him and go, "Yeah, let's go, man." Um, Whereas from Finn, I feel it could probably be sincere
Mm-hmm.
with wanting him around and wanting him to help. But with Finn, I believe in their little group huddle at the very end, before the very end, he'd also thanked JD McDonough for having, had his back for however many years, 20 some years, I think
I
he
think he
said.
said 20.
Yeah.
So I guess
Uh,
JD is older than like I originally thought. I would have guessed like
Same here.
mid 20s for that guy, but I guess we're wrong.
Yeah. Uh, so I feel like from his perspective, it's probably pretty sincere, but from everybody else, it's mostly just using him as a means to their end. Uh, Whether or not they come around to it and it's less of that and more of being sincere, only the future can really say. So, yeah.
I think, and this is just me with like my rose tinted Judgment Day glasses and stuff like that, because I'm
Mhm.
just like, this is it. Like this is the A story for me right now. I think there's a lot that could be told with like, obviously, like you said, the other three not having any real connection or relation to him, and kind of just
Mhm.
using him as a means to secure wins and not caring about him as a person. But with Finn for like trying for so long to get JD in, and then with him finally being on the outskirts, Finn is kind of like blinded to the fact that they're using him, and Finn thinks this is truly for just like altruistic purposes, and he's like, oh, they're letting my friend into the group and stuff, and he can't see, like, I guess the forest for the trees, or however that
Mhm.
saying goes, or whatever. But I could also see down the line they actually start warming up to him, and like they have one of those just like, man, I can't believe like we were only gonna let you join so you could like eat our pins or something like that. And he's like, what?
Huh?
You guys didn't like me? So I don't. There's a bunch of. I mean, there's a few different ways that it could all go out, but I'm
Yeah.
definitely back on board. Well, not that I ever left really, with the Judgment Day train. Um, just got to tune in for next week, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's a couple other spicy Judgment Day moments that happened later on in the night. But one of those was not the match between Zoe Stark and Shayna. Um, it's a shame that this got cut. I guess the Hulu versions of Raw just don't care about women's wrestling because they cut literally
Sadly.
like every women's segment from the show. Um, feel some kind of way about that. That doesn't seem like that happens
Yeah.
accidentally. Um, shots fired, I guess.
I would have loved to see a Shayna match.
Uh, well, there wasn't a ton that happened.
Hmm.
A lot of it happened during like the picture-in-picture break.
Hmm.
And Zoe was actually in control for most of the match, from what I was able to see. Picture-in-picture is just rough because it's hard to
Yeah.
focus because the commercial was like 90% of the screen. But it ends in true Shayna fashion. Shayna, like Zoe, just slips up. Shayna gets her in the clutch, and Zoe is able to fight out of it for a bit. Gets back on her feet a couple times, tries to throw Shayna off of her. Shayna gets back in the clutch and stuff like that, and Zoe eventually just passes out. Doesn't tap
Mhm.
out. Very important. Um,
Yes.
so Zoe's kind of coming to into the corner, like while the ref's got her into the corner, sitting her up, just like letting her come to and stuff. Shayna hasn't like left yet. She's just doing that thing where she's like walking back and forth between the other three turnbuckles, kind of waiting for Zoe to get back on her feet. She goes over to Zoe, confronts her in the corner, and she says, "You know, you gave me a hell of a lot more fight than Ronda ever did." And Zoe goes back, "Yeah, well, you're better than Trish ever was." And Shayna shoots like a side eye or like a duh type of thing. But they fist bump, mutual show of respect, and then Shayna does eventually take her leave. So tag team possibility of Zoe and Shayna. I I think it would be cool.
Hmm.
I don't want it. I don't think enough has been done with Shayna on the whole I'm the one that drove Ronda Rousey out of WWE. Like I'm still kind of waiting for that Shayna push. Singles
Yeah.
push, I'll say. Cuz monkey's paw like okay, well they're going to get a push. Tag team. Like no, it's not what I meant.
This isn't what I wanted.
ah. But
Nightmare.
I mean as much of like a pedestal that Ronda Rousey has been put on by WWE, just like in
Mhm.
kayfabe. It doesn't matter how like I feel about Ronda or you feel about Ronda or like the fans, like the WWE like kayfabe perception of Ronda
Mhm.
Rousey, and then Shayna Baszler just kind of like moseyed her way over there and is like, I made her quit. I beat her up so bad she left. Why wouldn't you run with that?
Yeah, that's a strong jumping off point for that to get her a good solo run, which I don't really think she's had since she debuted. Not that I can remember, at least.
So she kind of had one.
Hmm.
So she jumped up from NXT. Uh, the whole elimination chamber thing happened where she
Just
eliminated all five of the other women,
yeah, blew through the
and
women's
then she lost
roster.
to Becky,
Yeah,
and that was it. That was as far as her singles push ever got.
yeah, okay,
Losing to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania was like the highlight of her career.
yeah. Like that wasn't even very long after her call up either at Elimination Chamber,
No,
if
no,
I
it was
remember
not.
correctly. No.
So yeah, they sacrificed that whole women's division to Shayna just to
Just to feed her to Becky.
feed her to Becky and make Becky look good. Which, you know, not gonna you're not gonna catch me with any Becky slander or
No,
anything. Uh,
no.
no, I like her so much we share the same birthday. But just do something with Shayna. She was so good in NXT. She is so good now. She just hasn't been given a chance to showcase it.
Yeah,
And you'd think finally like Ronda Rousey not being here anymore would be like the reason to really kick it off. But who's to say?
sadly.
We've got more Judgment Day stuff backstage. Finn is again trying to politic, get JD into the group, he kind of leaves it up to a vote of the other three. Priest says, he wants him to prove himself. Dom says he doesn't care, just whatever everyone else wants or thinks, which is the most Dominic stance.
Yeah, it is.
Dude is so like spineless, he won't even have like his own opinion without like Rhea's permission.
Yeah,
Neither would I, but I mean,
agreed.
I'm not Dom.
I'd
Um,
argue.
and Rhea says that they'll just have to keep an eye on JD tonight and see how he does in his match with Sammy. So after that, Priest and Finn go away. They go do tag team champion stuff, I guess. And I want to make sure that I didn't mishear this. I want to make sure that you heard this as well,
Mhm.
because I didn't see anyone else like say anything about this on like Twitter, or I haven't seen anyone bring it up. So when it's just Rhea and Dom, Rhea tells Dom like, "Hey, just make sure all this stuff, all of our plans with the whole JD thing go off without a hitch tonight, and then we'll talk about the other thing later." It's like, what's the other thing?
Let me know what that other thing is, please.
I'm very curious. What's the other thing? And it could just be like more stuff about JD. Like the other thing
Mhm.
could be JD's inclusion into the Judgment Day. But if it was, I don't think they would have said it like that. I think that there's something else brewing underneath the surface
Yeah,
that
yeah.
light will be shown on probably next week or in the weeks to come about what this grandiose plan is. And I think Dom helping out JD and JD getting in the good graces of the Judgment Day is just like,
One
step
step.
one of
Yeah,
this elaborate scheme, perhaps. I don't know.
yeah.
That feels too like twirling a mustache villainy type of deal for Judgment Day. But like that type of idea, like it feels like there's a very macro scale thing going on, and only like Rhea and Dom know about it.
Yeah.
But did you hear that too? Like, did you hear her say we'll talk about the other thing?
If I remember correctly, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure because there's a couple times tonight where things have been said and I'm like, did I mishear that? Something
Me
about
too.
Sammy saying someone opened their ass.
There's something about one of the announcers calling Cody Rhodes an EDP.
Yeah, cool. Well,
Ugh.
uh,
Ugh.
the closed captions were fighting for their life tonight.
They really were.
Um, so up next we've got Chelsea Green and Raquel Rodriguez. Uh, this was cut from the Hulu version, as we discussed. The genesis of this match was Chelsea backstage complaining to Adam Pearce about how Raquel was probably complaining that, about her match and all this type of stuff. Except Raquel hadn't left. It was the standard, like the camera cuts out, and then it turns out
Mhm.
Raquel was beside Chelsea the whole time. Chelsea's like, "How long were you here?" Raquel's like, "Long enough." And then just looks at Adam and is like, "Hey, Adam, can you do me a favor?" And he's like, "You got it." And we get a squash match, essentially. Chelsea Green just gets the absolute piss beaten out of her. She just gets thrown, shaken, just handled. It's not pretty. It's over pretty quick.
Mhm.
Um, but Raquel announces that next week, and it's so weird that they left this out because they're not going to cut this part out next week, so you'd have absolutely no idea where this match came from. Raquel's getting a
Well,
rematch,
mhm.
so it is Rhea versus Raquel for the championship next week. Dom has been banned from ringside.
They did. I think it was before or after what was supposed to be a cut for a commercial break. They did throw up a splash image of that fight that
Okay,
had the asterisks. Dominic Mysterio is banned from ringside.
so how do you think that's gonna go? Because it's specifically just Dom.
Uh, there are two other members to Judgment Day, and one person who seemingly is attempting
We'll
to get
do
his way into
anything to
Judgment
get in there.
Day.
So
So he technically has no affiliation with them yet, really, if you think about it.
that
So
was
what's stopping JD McDonough from just kind of hopping in and be like, "Hey, I got your back again, guys."
yeah, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. Like as soon as they're like, and Dom's banned from ringside, it's like so it's JD.
Yeah.
Which I mean, hey, if it continues the story and it
Mhm.
furthers that along, then I am all for it. I don't think if Raquel didn't win at Payback, I don't think Raquel is gonna win on just an episode of Raw.
No, I don't think so.
But this is what's up next. The Kofi, Riddle, and Drew segment backstage that happens. That is the fallout from their match. Um, Drew's pissed. He's trying to find Kofi. Kofi explains to him, he's like, "You messed up last week. I messed up this week." And Drew's just like not having any of it. And Kofi calls him out. He's like, "So, like, you're not the only one that gets to make mistakes around here. Like, everyone else is human.
Yeah.
Like, this stuff happens, dude. Like, sorry." And Drew just leaves in a huff. So I'm hoping that, we're getting a little more agitation out of Drew, a few more heelish tendencies. It's starting to get dark on my screen. There we go. Um, I kind of just want that heel turn.
Yeah.
Just, just personally, kind of want that heel turn.
I'd like to see that.
I want to see him just beat the hell out of Riddle. Just disband that tag team, get him out of here. Have Drew feud with like Seth or something, like get him back in the main event scene.
Hmm.
Probably lose, but at least
Hey,
he's
at least
there.
he's back in there. Yeah.
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
Um, did they cut the Miz TV segment for you?
No,
Okay.
Miss TV
I
was in
kind of
there.
wish they would have. I did not like this, and I'm in
No.
a very small minority here. Um, as soon as Miz is like, "Oh, my guest is John Cena," and they cut, and then they're like, "Oh, they're doing the whole 'you can't see me' thing." I was pissed. I was so over this whole segment. I I just wanted to watch anything else for like the 5 minutes that this took.
Hmm.
Would you like to talk about it so I don't have to?
Okay. So cut in. It's Miz TV. Miz does his introduction, you know, talking about how he has a special guest, and his special guest is going to be has promised to be transparent with him this week. Those are the exact words
I
he
know,
said.
I know, but it didn't click
uh,
until just now that I'm like, shit.
uh, and then he introduces him. It's John Cena. Entrance music, graphics up on the TV screen. No one's coming around. Cameraman's acting confused. Tries to walk in like, oh, maybe he hasn't come around the corner yet. Goes and checks around the stage. Maybe he's coming around from a different angle in the crowd. Walks back over to the ring. Like, hey man, I don't see him. I don't see him. And then Miz acts like John Cena's just in the ring, and then sits down next to him. And Miz has a conversation with a non-existent entity in the ring, claiming it's John Cena, and he's the only one that can really see him and really see him for what he is, and is essentially claiming that Cena was paid off or essentially just, you know, not really hired, but just doing what he can to help
In
LA Knight
collusion.
get the win. Yeah, yeah. Colluding with LA Knight to get LA Knight the win over Miz, and that he was treated unfairly because of this. Uh, and at one point, he ends up getting up off of the chair and having an invisible fight with Cena. Uh, threw a couple fists, hit a couple moves. It's like, essentially just shit talking on Cena because, he's the only one that can really see him.
I will.
That's about all I have,
I will
really.
say. I will say. The skull crushing finale that he gave to Cena at the end there was honestly like the best looking skull crushing finale Miz has delivered in like years. I will say
Yeah,
that at least. So
yeah,
Cena
it looked,
Cena knows how to take a bump.
yeah.
I hope this isn't leading to something more. Like
Mhm.
it's 2023. The last thing I want to see is the Miz and John Cena have another feud, another rivalry. Because we don't need this
No,
like at all.
no. Uh, I will say, just in a bubble, not related to everything else, in a bubble, getting that little bit with the Miz and him, dealing with a combatant we can't see, that kind of like a little bit of goofiness, a little bit of shenanigans and all. I really, I really appreciate little things like that every once in a while. I thought that was a good bit of fun. However, with it continuing this whole and what seems to, hopefully, I would hope not, seems to be building up a feud with Cena again. I didn't necessarily appreciate it for that.
I don't know. We're 2 for 2 on Miz segments in 2 weeks. Where I just want to turn my TV off. But hey, that's the Miz. That's what he does. He gets on the screen and he just mizzes all over the place. Uh, well, okay, what was next? Sami Zayn and JD McDonough. So the penultimate match of the night has been, interwoven throughout what's going on. The intro sentence I have is Sammy shows there's no such thing as diminishing returns as we hear his music for the third time tonight and get the same level of pop for each one. The man is bulletproof at this point.
Yes.
Like you can do literally just every single wrestler could have Sami Zayn's music and it's always gonna like elicit a reaction.
Speaking of music and this match, uh, JD McDonough, not too fond of his entrance.
Oh my god, no, I hate
It's
his music.
extremely boring.
Oh yeah, it is. So when Daniel and I went when Raw was in Baltimore, when Daniel and I went,
Yeah.
um, he had one of the matches on main event. So he had like, basically one of the dark matches before like Raw actually started.
Mhm.
And it took forever for me to like figure out who it was because his music is incredibly boring
Yeah.
and it's not even generic because like it only belongs to one person, but it's so not music
Yeah.
that it
It's just a like simple quarter note beat
yeah
is about all it really is.
yeah
Do, 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 do.
it's just dun dun dun, and that's it that's his music. I was so mad. I was like,
Yeah.
who is this? And then it finally flashes up like JD, and I was like, oh, it's JD McDonough. And then he ended up winning that match, so I had to hear his dumbass music again.
That's one thing I am hoping that if he does end up joining Judgment Day in some way, they revamp his music a bit.
So I have bad news.
Oh no.
So, well, this is like the whole like monkey's paw thing again. Like that second finger's about to curl up. Other than Rhea, who got a
Yeah,
just complete brand new theme from Motionless in White of all people, uh,
as Rhea does,
as Rhea does. Every other member of Judgment Day, their Judgment Day theme is just a slower version of what their music already was. So, I mean, just be careful what you wish for, right?
Dun, dun,
It's gonna just sound like Jaws without that minor second. It's just the same note over and over. You catch that one, music nerds? Um,
Oh God.
so
I take
before
it back. I take it back.
so before this match actually starts, so Sammy comes out. But of course it's WWE, it's a regular episode of Monday Night Raw. So something has to happen backstage while that person who's getting ready to have a match is already in the ring. And they just have to kind of be out there for that whole time. So Pierce is backstage, catches up with Jay. And this is interesting. He catches up with Jay, lets him know, like, hey, I'm sure you're aware of this. Not everyone's too happy that you are here now. Um, but SmackDown wants trade compensation for Jay. Because obviously they're not going to let... The man's name is Main Event Jay Uso. They're not just going to give him to Raw and not expect anything in return.
Yeah.
And Pierce is like, look, people already like don't want you here. And SmackDown is just going to get like a free trade. So depending on who they pick, they might like you even less if it means that someone that they do like has to leave the roster now. And he just wanted to catch up with Jay, let him like make him aware of the current situation and everything that's going on. So it's Cody, right? Like it's Cody going to SmackDown.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Because like other than Cody winning the Rumble, and I don't know if I want Cody to win back-to-back Rumbles.
Yeah.
How does he get back into the Bloodline story?
Yeah. That checks out.
I
And
saw some other people throwing out some suggestions. Uh, like if it's Riddle, then like Drew's gonna be upset, and then you could have like Drew and Jay.
is he though?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, would
Is he
Drew be
though?
upset if like he had to stop being a tag team with Riddle? Would he care?
Like, even in kayfabe, would he really
Would he?
care?
I saw people saying it could be KO.
That that was my initial thought upon you like bringing this back up and uh pointing out that people might not be too happy if it's someone that everyone likes. It's like, oh well, if they're really trying to wrangle KO and Sammy back into this and keep that going along with creating problems with Jay, that was my initial thought was that it would be either Sammy or Kevin, possibly.
But I mean, most prevalent theory is obviously Cody. Get him
Yeah,
back over there. That's how he feuds with Roman.
yeah.
Until proven otherwise, that is probably the route that I am going down. But I'm scared because it seems too obvious, and I feel like we're gonna get swerved.
It's Cody though.
I mean, if it's not Cody, then like he literally has to win the Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other option for him to face Roman if that's the route that we're still going down for Mania next year. Can't wait to see him lose in person.
Let's
Let's
go.
go. Oh, I will cry.
You and me both.
Uh, okay, so this is another one of those matches where I didn't really take notes of the match. I just took notes of the finish.
Mhm.
Which it's a standard match. It's Sammy and JD.
Yeah.
So Sammy is looking for a haluva kick, and Dom actually runs down, pulls JD out of the ring. So he's kind of already doing part one of that plan of just keeping JD safe, keeping him out of harm. And JD actually gets a win. He does a quick roll up on Sammy. I think he also grabs the tights
Yeah.
after Dom does another distraction to Sammy. So Dom helps JD out. JD gets a win over Sammy. And then what happens after the match is kind of interesting, where Dom's just getting beat up, and Sammy's looking for a haluva kick on Dom, and JD is like contemplating whether or not he actually wants to get in there and help. And ultimately, he does decide that, like, okay, I'm gonna go in and help him. He gets Dom out of there, tells Dom to leave, go back up the ramp, whatever, whatever. And then JD is the one that actually ends up eating a haluva kick after the whole like exploder suplex in the corner. Sammy walks to the other corner, haluva kick, like
Mhm.
the whole like 3-piece combo.
Yeah.
Um, but with that one, Dom is not even like turned around to watch what's going on. Dom is just actually walking back up the ramp, not paying attention to anything that's going on in the ring. So I guess like all the plan was to just have JD win. And then I think after that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it very well could have just been that, or it could have also they could just be going down the line of, "Hey Dom, you're an idiot. What
Yeah,
are you
there's that
doing?
too.
I told you to go out there and protect this man," and then you just like turn tail and run whenever he told you that you're good to just leave, and then he is hurt. So I could see it rolling that way too. It's like, Dom, get your shit together, man. What are you doing? But more likely, it's what you said.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's involving Dom, so I'm probably not going to like it either way.
What? I thought you loved Dom.
Speaking of things that involve Dom, right after the match, it's Jay backstage. Dominic Mysterio tries recruiting Jay Uso to the Judgment Day. I almost said Bloodline. That's the one he just left. No.
He
I
tries doing what?
did
They
they cut
they cut
this?
that. They cut
Oh,
that.
no, yeah. He starts doing this like heartfelt appeal to Jay about like, look, man, I know we both come from broken families, families that don't care about us, like all this other type of stuff. And he tells him that like there's a spot open in the Judgment Day for him if he ever wants it. He's like, I'll talk to everyone else. I'll make sure it's cool, but just think about it. No,
Yeah, I'm
do
with you on
do
that one.
not put Jey Uso in the Bloodline or Judgment Day. Do you know how weird it is not saying Jey Uso and Bloodline now in the same sentence? It's almost like
Very
3
weird.
years of muscle memory will like get to you.
Trying to break.
Yeah. Oh my god. Um. No, I don't even want to see this like entertained. I
No.
I think the only follow up next week should be like Dom asking him if he thought about it, and Jay just like super kicks him, and like
Yep.
that's how this
Yep.
should go. I don't want any more effort spent on this. The last thing Jay needs is to leave a group
Just
and
to
then
join another
join
one.
another group on a night where he made a promo about being there on his own.
Yeah.
I don't, just, what do I know? Just a fan. Um, so we have our main event of the evening. It is Gunther and Chad Gable for the Intercontinental Championship. They've been doing these cool like bumper packages throughout the evening of just showing iconic
Yeah.
shots of Intercontinental champions, and they really did a good job of like if you would have shown like in a vacuum if you would have just shown me this one episode and you have like the whole segment with Seth, and then you have this as the main event and stuff like that with all of like the champion pictures and stuff, and you're like, which one of these titles feels more important? Like, which one is more prestigious? It's the IC title. Gunther's reign. I'm dying.
We'll
Gunther's
do that.
reign has done such a good job of
Yeah.
getting the IC title back into its like prestigious workhorse category that it used to be. It used to be like the belt that was the stepping stone to get you ready for the main event scene and to test and see if you were like world championship material.
Hmm.
And it just hasn't been that in so long. It's just been this like throwaway compensation prize for when like WWE doesn't quite know what to do with you, but they want you to feel special. And it's just had this like broken, disjunct sort of lineage and legacy over these last couple of years that just hasn't felt too good. And all of that is gone now, literally
Yeah.
because of Gunther.
Yeah.
Like his presence, his matches, everything feels important. He makes that belt feel like it is the most important part of Raw every single week. And Seth Rollins has a crowd that'll like sing his music for 5 minutes straight. And he doesn't feel as important as like Gunther on this night,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
It's wild, dude.
um, as far as the match actually goes, other than like the last 5, 6, 7 minutes, kind of underwhelmed. Um, One thing I've never noticed on Hulu, do they do picture in picture cutaways or do they keep the whole picture up there?
They don't do picture-in-picture cutaways. Uh, so it's just the whole thing.
Okay.
Whether or
So
not they actually keep those or they just treat them as a break, I can't say.
okay.
Because they will cut away or like say, next after our break or whatever, and then back from our break, this is what's going on.
Okay. So you might have actually got more enjoyment out of this match than I did because
Mhm.
watching it live was infuriating. Um Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful kept track of like the timestamps and tweeted them out. So they go to commercial at 10:44 and it's picture in picture, but like
Yeah,
it's essentially a just a commercial break. Like
yeah,
paying
you
attention to
can't
picture in
really.
picture is so hard.
Yeah, it make takes up only what 10%, if that, of the screen,
Yeah,
the actual match and everything.
I have too much gray matter and not enough wrinkles up there for it to like keep my interest. Um, so they go at 44 and they come back at 47. The next commercial break happened at 10:50, and it was again another picture-in-picture commercial spot, which I guess devil's advocate is better than just a full commercial break. But you have been building this matchup and claiming how important it is, and then you're just saying, "Ah, fuck it. We'll put as many commercials as we want in there."
Especially doing that all night long with the you know, bumper promos of those champs throughout the entire night. Not only building it up to the night, but during the night itself too.
Yeah,
That's wild.
and like this is all the last like month and a half of Gunther has been is like, is he going to break Honky Tonk Man's record? Is he going to be the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history? And they just slaughter this match with commercials, and they make it nigh unwatchable until like the last 5 minutes of the match when it really does pick up and it turns into like some very captivating television. But everything up until then, it was just kind of difficult to watch, and it could have been so much more.
Yeah, that's. I'm honestly thinking that they probably cut most of that out too, because I don't know how long the match was live, but in the Hulu package, it was maybe just over 10 minutes long
I think entrances
for the
started
entire
somewhere
match.
around like 10:40, 10:41. So I mean, they gave, entrances included, give or take
Yeah.
about the last 20 minutes of the night. So,
Okay. So I think that they did cut out about half of the match. So probably all those picture-in-picture things didn't get put in because there was one really big cut in there. I don't know. I don't think I put it in my notes. No, I did not. Um, but there was one really big cut where Gable's in the ring and
Mm.
Gunther's outside the ring. And they cut back, and Gable's in a lock in the middle of the ring from Gunther. And it just really felt so jarring to go from, hey, yeah, Gable just, you know, got Gunther out the ring, was swinging him around out there, and it's all triumphant in the ring to just snap your fingers. And bam, actually, he's in a lock. Gunther's back. You thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
Sorry to jump ahead a little bit, but
no, you're
it was
good. I
really
mean,
jarring.
unfortunately, I mean, I want to say that there's like a lot to talk about with this match, but I don't have a ton of notes because there wasn't a whole lot of match to watch.
No, again, it was like I think the last 10 minutes of the show, if that. I paused not too long after the entrances, and I there was somewhere around 10 minutes left, and the show ended with, 4 minutes still left for credits and anything else that they had for closing up the night. So yeah, I don't really have too much either. Honestly, I had it at one point. Gunther had hit a power bomb on Gable, and Gable had his head bounce off of the mat like a bouncy ball. That looked really bad. Oh, looked like it hurt a lot, I should say.
Um, so that was more or less like the finish of the match.
Hmm.
So I say I've got like the last couple of minutes, like I've been saying, they were really fun. There was that spot where Gable hits Gunther with a superplex, and then hits him with a flying headbutt. He gets a
Yep.
very near fall off of that. There was a really really good looking chaos theory, that like rolling German suplex that Gable
Yeah.
does. That was really good. There was also a lot of like Gable had him in an ankle lock,
Hmm.
and Gunther tries to roll through, and Gable rolls through with him and stuff. A lot of like mat technician work that we just know that Gable is capable of doing now that we've had
Yep.
enough time to really digest the mat wrestler and the technician that Gable is. The finish was absolutely brutal. There was like you could take clothes out of like the dryer, and they would not have been as clean as like this win was for Gunther. He gives
Yeah.
him like the nastiest looking sleeper suplex I've ever seen. Gable lands just square on the top of his head.
Yep.
Immediately after that, hits him with a power bomb and then a lariat, and then just pins him. It just puts him out of his misery. Like he puts
Yep.
like he just puts him out the pasture. Tells him to face the wall.
Yeah.
It was rough, but like that's ultimately what he needed to do to put Gable down, because Gable
Yeah.
just wasn't going away.
Yeah.
But that solidifies Gunther. He is now the longest, or will be, because he's not
Yes.
going to be defending between now and the time that the record's broken. Will be the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history. Um, but I have that the camera keeps cutting back to Gable in the ring, with Gunther looking back at him as he's going back up the ramp. I still really feel like it will be Gable's time eventually.
Yeah.
Something that I've been seeing a little bit of people online say is, and this just kind of goes to show how fickle um, a lot of WWE fans are, and wrestling fans in general. I don't want to make it
Hmm.
sound like, AEW stan or anything like that. Like, oh, those silly WWE people. Um, a lot of people were calling for Jay. Like now that he's on Raw, like yeah, give it to Jay Uso. Let him be rewarded with the belt and stuff like that for all of the good work he did. And it's like, were we just not saying this about Gable? Did we already forget?
You just got pinned how long ago? And you're already forgetting about the man?
But I mean, I could see Jay like, I don't know if I'd want to see Jay versus Gunther. Just I don't know if their styles would mesh well because
I don't think so.
Jay has just been hiding like this ring general persona, and he's just like a 5-star Matt classic, and just no one knows about it. But
That'd
I
be absolutely wild to see, but
but I don't
I don't
think
think so.
he and Gunther Styles would mesh too well.
Mm-mm.
And there's been like worse matchups, I'm sure, in WWE history, and many have made more with less.
Yeah,
But I just don't. I'm so set on Gable, and I'm biased. I really like Chad Gable.
me
I,
too.
I just don't want to accept that it could be anyone else, especially with the
Hmm.
way that like they lingered on Gable, and
Hmm.
even like he had a WWE.com exclusive or like Twitter exclusive interview after the match when he's I guess in like the doctor's room or whatever, and he swears like up and down. He's like, Gunther better hold on to that title until I see him again because like I'm the one that's taking it off of him. And I think like they are planting the seeds for further and further,
Yeah,
and it could be like a WrestleMania moment where like Gable
that'd be really
finally
big.
beats Gunther and like gets
Yeah,
that title.
that'd be really big. That'd give enough time to work it back up to,
Yeah,
so that he actually has, you know, a right to challenge him and everything. It's not just him coming off of two losses. Well, not two losses, but kind of two losses. Lost one of them, technically.
technically, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the episode of Raw. Other than a few like head scratching moments, again, really it's mostly the Shinsuke thing. I lost sleep over that. I thought the episode of Raw was really enjoyable. There was a lot of stuff that was really cool that I don't know why they cut out of the Hulu episode for you.
Yeah, I
Mostly
would
all
have
the
liked to
women's
see a lot of
stuff.
that.
It's kind of weird. Like now that we are like saying it, it's like, oh, they cut exclusively all of the women's stuff out of the Hulu thing. Like that doesn't
Yeah,
happen by accident.
and to only see after uh commercial break the promo for the Raquel Rhea rematch,
Yeah, like they yeah of
and
all
that be at for 15 seconds, if that, and I don't even think they touched on it in during the announcements in returning from the break. So it's just wild.
yeah, I figured at least they'd put that in there because it is intrinsically tied to a match that happens next week for
Yeah.
quite literally the women's championship of that brand. You'd think you'd want to like put that in there for people that can only like watch the Hulu version to understand where we're coming from, but
Yeah, and I mean, even at that, you said it was a squash match,
yeah, more or less. I mean, yeah,
more or less. So like it would have added what, 2, 3 minutes? Well,
yeah, it was
with
not long.
entrances and stuff, I guess like 5 minutes or whatever. I'm sure that there was something else they could have either cut, shortened, or just tacked on a little bit of extra time. But
Maybe this is the kick in the pants that WWE need. Like, hey, we see what you're doing to the Hulu stuff, and we don't like that.
yeah, please.
We'll start the revolution. Um, I don't really have a whole lot else. I think we touched on everything pretty well. I think as we're recording this right now, if not soon, there's in 1 minute as we're recording this, NXT starts.
Yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see if Becky pops up down there after that whole little debacle.
they did have the backstage little, I don't know, confrontation. I guess they had. They didn't. They just talked at each other really.
Mm.
But Stratton had come out and said, oh, I'm so sorry for saying you had won this belt and you hadn't actually. My bad. And Becky's just kind of like, okay, watch your back.
Something Nakamura.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see if she ends up. I feel like she probably will, but be interesting to see.
What if she like what does she do if she wins it? Like obviously she could I guess still be on Raw because Dom is still on Raw
Yeah,
despite being NXT North American champ.
it'd be so weird to have two belts from NXT. Not, I mean, I'm sure she would still defend on
Mm-hmm.
NXT and whatnot, but it that'd be so weird to just not have them technically be part of the brand, but still technically be part of the brand. It's just that's weird.
So I
It's odd.
haven't watched a whole lot of NXT since they kind of went that like NXT 2.0 route and stopped being the black and gold. Um,
You and me both.
yeah, just with like work schedule, it's been harder to fit
Hmm.
NXT into the day to day life. So I'm not too well versed in everything that's going on down there. So I couldn't even begin to like spitball who could possibly, if Becky does get that uh, title off Stratton, I don't even know who would get it off Becky. But that's not for us to decide, so
Nope.
don't have to worry about that. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps this one up.
Yeah.
So as always, if you guys liked what you hear, give us a like, hit that subscribe. At least we try and get Raw and SmackDown out every week.
Yep.
As I'm saying this now, I realize we didn't actually do a payback review of sorts.
No, we did not.
Um, we'll get it next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we we were basically all right.
Well,
What is there to talk about really?
we'll get it on Fastlane.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll have
Yeah,
a lot to talk
Fastlane.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. Until next time, guys. We have been the Sheer Drop Wrestling team signing off.